Hello, welcome to 20th Century Adventures Artifact of the Week. This week we've got a 2-for-1 going on here. We've got 2 Ford Model T wrenches, and we're going to tell you a little bit about them. Now you may see these if you're a person who likes to frequent yard sales and flea markets, antique stores, whatever. You might have run across these at times, and usually they're pretty cheap. Remember, Ford made 15 million Model Ts, and each one of them came with a wrench. And then they made several other ones after the fact so that you could replace your wrenches if you lost one. So these are really common, and you can pick them up for under $3 usually. So you'll notice that it's got a really unique shape. It's kind of got this curve to it. It's got a hex end on one side, and then the other is an open box wrench, which is significantly larger than the other one. So what were these for? Well, in the 1920s, gasoline was not real good. It had a lot of impurities in it. The technology was new and had a long ways to go. So your spark plugs could become fouled really easily going down the road. And you'd have to take them out and clean them, possibly adjust them, or worst case scenario, even replace them. And that's where this tool comes in. This is exactly the size of the top of the spark plugs. So it goes in and it hooks onto that spark plug, and then you can loosen up or tighten your spark plugs as needed. Now, this other side is specifically for the head bolts. So nowadays, we would never think about adjusting the bolts on the head of our automobile. But at this time, there were no torque specs, and the heating and contracting of the engine over and over could loosen these. Remember, we didn't have Loctite and things like that we normally put in to keep bolts from moving nowadays. Nowadays, we put Loctite on it, we put the bolt in, we torque it to spec, and we leave it be. They didn't have those options, and so occasionally your head bolts might begin to loosen and your head gasket will start to leak. So the way you resolve that is you take your handy Ford wrench with that hex end, and you go in here and you tighten down your head bolts. Make sure that everything is tight all the way around. And like tightening lug nuts on a wheel, you want to kind of go back and forth across and go across your diagonals so that you tighten this evenly all the way around. And nowadays, since we have the benefit of torque wrenches, figure out what's a good torque and set them at that. And remember to adjust them every now and then, especially if you don't use Loctite, which I never do on historic vehicles because you have to get into them so often. So the other tool here, this one is just a stamped sheet metal tool. And these are a little less common because they weren't useful after the age of the Model T, and so they didn't get stuck in the tool drawer and stick around for the next 100 years. So this tool is specifically for working on the wheels and changing wheel bearings. Nowadays, we would think of a wheel bearing job as a pretty big chore, but at this time, it's simply a matter of unscrewing a couple of things and putting a new bearing in and putting it back together. It's real easy. So the largest hex is for the caps on the wheels, the hubcaps. The next hex down, there's a cotter pin you have to pull out of the axle, and then this hex will loosen the retaining nut, and then this tool will bring out the actual bearing. So those are this one I've never used. I'm not really positive what that one's for. It may be for the bearing retainer as well, but this is the one that you really need to be able to unscrew the wheel bearing out of there. So that's what these are for. Kind of a neat little piece of history. Next time you see one of these at a flea market or yard sale or something, you can say, aha, I know what that is. I know what that's for. So that's our artifact of the week. Hope you've enjoyed this. If you have, click like and subscribe, and we'll see you down the road.